Hello. Hello. Thank you so much to Michelle for making that little film. It was just a little too narrow, but thank you so much. It's lovely, lovely seeing that steaming cup of herb tea. Welcome to Tea with a Druid 166, brought to you by the Order of Bards, Onates and Druids. Let me just click one thing here. Lovely. Right. Where are we? We're here. We're in England. I'm in England. And you're all over the world. You're in Canada and Holland and Derbyshire and South Wales and the Alpes en France and Portugal and Wexford and, yeah, great, Norfolk, Norway, Yorkshire. Fantastic. Lovely, lovely to see you. Well, I hope you've had a good week. And I hope you've enjoyed, certainly down the south of England, we've had just a few days of beautiful sunny weather where you could really feel the spring. That was so appreciated. Today was overcast again, but it's just lovely to feel spring getting closer. And I thought it would be interesting to explore with you today two books. You know, the way the wheel of the year, the turning wheel of the year, is so central to the Druid worldview and Druid practice and the way of being a Druid in the world. And of course, it goes beyond Druidry to paganism and even just nature spirituality in general. And I have two books here that I'd like to show you. One which has just arrived called Living with Nature by Stephen Field. I'll give you the link here. It kind of seems hard to find. Stephen, if you're listening to this, somehow your book is difficult to locate. Maybe it's just sold out, but I'm going to type in here the link so you can find it with Book Depository. It's nowhere else as far as I can see. And the other book is Environmental Arts Therapy and the Tree of Life by Ian Sidden's Hegenworth. A monthly guide for your soul's journey on this beautiful earth. Now, it's really interesting if you take these two books together, and I'll give you a link for that book as well. No, I'll have to give it to you later. If you take these books together, they're doing interesting things. Stephen Field's Living with Nature book is taking us on a journey around the circle of the year, around the eightfold wheel of the year, drawing our attention to what we can see outside of us, to the birds, the trees, the weather, the land, flowers, and the stars. And it's very much centered on the British Isles. So if you're in another country, it may not be so relevant to you. But what he's doing is he's using the framework of the eightfold wheel to bring his observations together and to take you on a journey through the year. And I'm going to give you an example of this where I decided to look at precisely the time we are at in the Northern Hemisphere, which is moving from Imbolc to the spring equinox. And where are we here? The long dark evenings are still with us at this time of the year, and the sky is rich in brilliant constellations. Notice how Polaris remains in the same location, while all the other stars we became familiar with in January have shifted position at a regular viewing time. The plough is now climbing higher in the northeast, and as Orion edges into the southwest, overlooked by Auriga, the constellation of Gemini becomes the central figure in the southern sky during February evenings. So he gets us going out into into nature. He goes on later on, when out and about during the daytime in March, you should notice that the buds are starting to swell, indicating the warmer weather and increase in daylight is bringing our deciduous trees and shrubs back to life once again. Once the soil warms up sufficiently, usually in early March, trees start to grow new feeding roots. Only root hairs are able to extract water and nutrients from the earth, and these last for just a few weeks. the production of new root hairs being maintained during the growing season. The last of the previous year's root hairs died in the autumn, but the mobilization in spring of nutrients stored in a tree's cells enables new root hairs to grow, so water and nutrients can be drawn up the vessels to feed the buds. In celebration of the reawakening of trees, the full moon of March is called the sap moon. For sap, a vital circulating juice, is the lifeblood of trees, and this is rising once again after the dormant period. And he gets us bird watching and getting our feet and hands muddy and wet, and it's highly recommended. And then you pick up this book and something else is happening. The author is drawing us into the year, and just as Stephen Field is doing, taking us from not focusing on the specific ceremony times, which we tend to do in Druidry. We tend to focus on the specific times of Imbolc and Samhain and so on, but it takes us in those vital times between the ceremonies, between the festival times. And so Ian Sidden's Hegenworth does too, and he takes us on a journey both out in nature, but also looking in to what's happening inside us and the dynamics, the psychodynamics that our integrated state in the natural world is evoking, are working with, are tuning into. Let me read you a little bit to give you a feel for this different approach that's very complementary. So he's talking about, again, the same period. At the very heart of the month of Willow, we find Valentine's Day, the day of love. Valentine was a Roman saint imprisoned for love, and so his devotion is set like a flame upon a backdrop of sacrifice and loss. So it is that we find this Lover's Day so placed in the boughs of the grieving tree. When in therapy we work down through the layers of grief, we always find love to be at the heart of the matter. The love that was lost, the love that never was, the love of self in the face of suffering, or the love of what might have been. The love of what is changing, for all things change. We find that grief is a well of ambivalence and ever-transmuting feelings. As we near the ache of it, we feel the fear, for as we stare down into the oceanic depths of our heart, we see it magnified as vast as a whale and think, how can I bear this? How can I birth into this terrible child of my heart? So we recoil from grief and press it down deeper and harder. But when grief must come, it will come. Like a baby come to term, it will be born, and not all at once, but in contractions. Pushing us into rage, then relaxing. Pushing us into tears, then relaxing. Great cycles of raw and urgent feeling, washing over us like waves upon the beach, lasting for what seems like an eternity, until all is spent, and peace breaks through the clouds like the first rays of sunshine. Whenever we re-enter the womb, in any time of transition, we find her waters rich in grief. Eddies of guilt, swirls of sadness, and torrents of anger. The waters of the womb are as diverse and unpredictable as the waters of on earth. But just like the terrestrial, they follow a cycle as we ride upon them. We follow the cycle too. So you see he's weaving the outer and the inner beautifully here. If we follow the great circle of the waters, we find it begins in the mist upon the sea, drawn up by the sun into the clouds, then into rain, heavy upon the earth, making puddles and streams. Playful rivulets gather into great curling rivers, sweeping down from the highlands, rushing and pushing. Slow, ambient estuaries spread lazily across the flatlands, leading down to the coast. And then the ocean, the great heart, surging, turning, and vast. And all along this journey are rapids and whirlpools, lakes and waterfalls, marshes and stagnant ponds. Water with all its many faces, laughing, loving, blustering, relaxing, roaring, thrusting, dozing, round and round and round forever. So it is with us if we let it flow. If we become the vessel of our own feeling and not the dam. All passes through us. We tumble down the waterfall into the stillness of a great lake and find rest. So I reckon a year spent with these two books. This book, if you're in Britain, perhaps another similar book if you're in another part of the world, will do wonders for you and take you on a deeply transformative journey. And so let's have a meditation now. Let's imagine that whilst we're aware of being seated in front of our computers or our screens, we can also just gently close our eyes and allow our awareness of being in this situation to gently fade as we become aware of moving through the trees, our feet crunching over the frost, moving towards the clearing in the forest, the sacred grove, this magical spot, the earth beneath us, the trees around us, and the sky above us. And imagine now that rather than sitting down on the ground, you feel moved to take a little path that's leading out from the grove. Maybe you sense that we're all moving. You see your companions, those of us who are physically all around the world now, but at this moment are together in consciousness, just taking this path. You may see some of your companions just ahead of you, and you follow them, going through the trees, going up a little higher, up to a meadow. The trees start to fall away now, and you see there's a meadow that's looking out across the land. In the distance, you can see water, perhaps a great lake, perhaps the sea. You see fields, you see forests, woodland, and hills, maybe even mountains in the distance. And there's this very, very convenient spot for you to sit. And you see that everybody is sitting down to admire the view now. And so there's the companionship of being together, having taken this little pilgrimage together to this hillside. And you imagine sitting on this spot, perhaps it's just a lovely smooth set of rocks. And you sit there and you look out across the land. And it's just after sunrise. The sun has risen. It's just rising in the most beautiful colors, golden, tinged with red and orange. And you feel the warmth on your face. And you feel the way the sun is feeding you with warmth and with energy and with light. But you feel it now on the land. You can feel in a kind of empathy with the landscape. You can feel the earth being warmed. And you can feel the frost starting to melt. After a long winter, you can feel the yearning of the earth to be warmed by the sun. And you feel this warmth in your body. You feel this warmth in the land. And you feel all your fellow human beings who are sitting here being warmed too. And that makes you feel happy and glad. And you sense the animals now being warmed. The animals in their burrows, even in their sleep, feeling the earth warming. And you feel the plants being nourished by the sun. And the flowers starting to open. There are daffodils. There are crocuses. Snowdrops. And soaking in the color and the light and the warmth. You decide to bend down and touch the earth, and you look now at the frost on the earth, and you see these tiny little crystals of frost beginning to melt. And you enjoy the feeling of your warm hands, warmed from the sun, touching the frosty earth. And you can feel how your palms are getting cold from that delicious kind of sharp feeling of frost. And yet the backs of your hands are still warm from the sun. And you feel the earth and the grass wet beneath your hands now. You feel the moisture. May the land be blessed. May the earth be blessed. And knowing that you can return to this hillside and this meadow whenever you wish, you begin to see now some of your companions walking back into the woodland, and you start to walk back too, taking one last lingering look at the panorama towards the sea or the lake. And then you turn back to face the woodland and you walk into the wood. And you come into the sacred grove now, filled with sunshine on this warm spring day. And you form a circle with your companions, and you take a hand to either side of you, and you really feel the hand to your left and the hand to your right, and give each person a little squeeze with your hands. You feel them squeezing your hand back. In Druid ceremonies, we finish ceremonies by saying, "We swear by peace and love to stand, heart to heart and hand in hand. Mark, O Spirit, and hear us now, confirming this, our sacred vow." Another squeeze of the hands, a looking around at our fellow companions, and then you let go of the hands to either side of you. You become aware of standing in the grove, and then gradually you allow your awareness of the sacred grove to fade as you become aware of being seated in front of your screen, here and now, fully present. And when you feel ready, you open your eyes. Elizabeth Vettorino is in Volcano, Hawaii. How lovely. How lovely. Great to big hugs, lots of hugs going around. Love from Australia. And yes, we've just heard today that we're going to have to wait quite a while. But did you notice how Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, announced that we'll be released completely on the summer solstice. I'm not quite sure why he chose June the 21st as opposed to the 23rd or the end of June or the middle of June, but it's on the summer solstice. So it seems like all being well, that the summer solstice this year, the summer solstice in the Northern Hemisphere, or in Britain, I don't know about other countries when the lockdowns are going to end, but the solstice will be a time of great celebration. So thank you all for, I don't think he's a closet pagan, says Amy Michelle Reed. Yes, who knows? There is an interesting way that you see some of these ideas coming out, and again, it may not be conscious, but there's a TV personality who's been around for years and years called Esther Rantzen. She started Childline, big children's charity, and she was on the television the other day. Well, at the time when they were talking about cancelling Christmas and not opening the lockdown for Christmas, and she said, "Let's make it the summer solstice." Which was interesting. So the solstices and equinoxes are becoming more and more talked about. So many thanks to all of you. Thank you to Michelle for your lovely tea trailer. Matthew, who made the very dramatic Countdown to Armageddon trailer of last week, is coming up with another one, and I look forward to seeing that soon. And I look forward to, and Michelle says she's going to do another one as well. So let's see them all. That'd be great. And have a lovely weekend. If you're in the States and you're in the cold, I do hope you can stay warm. And we're thinking of you. And lots of love and many blessings to you. Okay, see you next week. Bye. I'm going to have a cup of tea now and read all your comments. I can see really interesting ones. Okay, ciao.